Hello everyone, I'm Scared Titan here with an animation update on the upcoming Godzilla Minus 3. So what I am currently, that's what I've been recently doing is, what I've recently done is I have completed pretty much most, if not all, of the scenes and the props that I'm building for the film. There are just a few things that I will need to complete, but that will be during the animation sequence, such as the character screenshots, some animation sequences, also be done during the animation process and all that. But overall, everything else should be good to go. Some things had to be streamlined in order for things to work here and there. And in fact, really, what's going to be a big thing for my films going forward is going to be more so on the character animations and, and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be less so about environments and details and more about just character interactions and movements and all that. That's what I wanted to really hone in and put more emphasis on and as I'm continuing to work on these films. But here it is. The first one that I can show you is Crush's Dungeon, which is sort of an equivalent to how it looks in between both Reignited trilogies and the PS1 version. And as you can see, those are all the power slots, you can say. Where Crush goes into one of them and then he would stomp on one that causes some sort of effect. So for example, if it's blue, then you do remember that he sends out shockwaves to electrocute Spyro. And then later on, if I can go ahead and get this over here, it'll change to red. Or I think it's somewhere close. Yeah, this is probably the closest I could get, or something like that. But whenever they change to red, Crush will summon a fireball to shoot at Spyro, which are similar to the ones that Ripto uses in his fight against Spyro at the end. And I added in some details such as some of the lights and these golden statues of Diatra. In fact, that's the character that I have exported STLs of the character model to make these. And of course, I had to get them all the way down there to the ground. And I'm going to go ahead and set this down to material preview. That's how I was able to place her feet on the platform right here under the water. Okay. And then this will be able to extend out for Spyro and his team to be able to get through, after defeating Crush. Okay, set this back to the render. Okay. So that's the first one that I'll be showing off. And then the second one, I don't need to save it. Let me go ahead and grab my, I want to see. I'm not going to show every single thing, and I don't want to show some scenes that could be spoiler heavy. So let me see if I can grab a different one. Maybe spooky. Hold on. I want to make sure if I'm getting it. Okay. Hold on. I think I should be able to have that right here, and I think I should be able to show this off. So I did some playing around with the visual effects and how I want to showcase the world of the Trijonjian domain, which is the Genie realm. So here it is with Midnight's, I think that's supposed to be called Celestial, or maybe Moonlight Rim. I know it kind of gets in mix between those, but bear with me here. It's still Moonlight. Yeah. And a lot of that was based off of the setting from Spyro 2 Season of Flame. So things like with, for example, the fire and then the freeze and then the lightning from the Game Boy Color game Spyro 2 Season of Flame. The naming convention and the setup is largely inspired from that game. Except that except the difference is that with Moonlight, it's switched from blue to green, and then the Starlight is switched from green to blue. So either way, here it is. I've set up the doors, which can open, and it would need to distract the Reptox in order for our heroes to be able to get inside. And then there they are. They get to exit out of those wells, which would take them time to be able to travel all the way from sunlight to moonlight. And then the cool thing I did with this is apart from adding in a pool that's kind of right down there, is I added these crystal glowing effects. So it kind of adds some sort of cluster to them. I ended up using where is it? I know it should be here somewhere. There we go. So I added some sort of a glitter effect to the glasses and the cluster that's in the middle, while also adding in this big ball right here that's supposed to reflect from this right here that I added in this light source. And I also added in 2 genie statues that are also glowing from there. Let's see. Actually, I'll go ahead and skip over here to this bit right here. Now, when Spyro and his group are about to enter Gulp's domain, there is this big hole right here that has this green fog. There's also this glittery glass that's on top that I mentioned earlier, when it's not really supposed to be the same sky as from what we see outside in the Moonlight Rim, but instead it's some sort of a artificial celestial sky that was added into the glass. You might have noticed earlier that I was rendering a scene for the prologue in episode 1. So, in case if you notice that, that's the reason why, but it's already done. So, I'm already getting ready for the animation rendering. And there it is. There's Spyro's disguise. Hold on. There's his disguise as a dog, which, if you are familiar with a certain film in your childhood, then congratulations, it's been restored. There also is his magic ring that he carries. So, more details coming to that as the film continues on. So there's that for Moonlight. And I think I'm going to show off another and maybe just one more. And again, I'm not trying to show everything that this film does. And there's some sequences that are going to be similar from past films. But let's see. Starlight. Do I really want to show Starlight? Let me see. I mean, I could, but I want to be I'm sparing with what I'm showing. So here it is. I think I'll show one more, and then that'll be it for the update. So here's some parts of the Starlight Gate. You're not going to see a lot of that underground, but there's the big portal, of course, and the portal effect is going to come during the animation sequence. So, but over here, this does look a little bit too bright, so I might need to change that while I'm animating this. But here's Shantae inside the tower itself, where she'll be overseeing everything that is within the Trijanjin domain, and especially in the Starlight Gate, since that's where she'll be staying at. Let's see. Okay, so that's where the big screen is, and there's a tower. And that is pretty much that for this update. And also this big road that I have created. It's primarily a recreation from the demo that you saw. Well, hold on. The first teaser that you saw from earlier in the summer, where Spyro drives a vehicle and then it flies up, and it was about challenge Godzilla and all that. And maybe just one more bit of that. And I'm trying not to spoil too much, but here is another part of the Trijanjin Domain's Starlight Gate, which it has all these power rings that Spyro in his original form will be flying through to ignite them. And it has this icy lake that will freeze up anybody that touches it. And you also have the stars surrounding the Trijanjin Domain logo. So there's definitely... It also has a bit of that winter tundra vibe going for it. So that's pretty cool here and there. So what I'm already starting to do for the film is that it's going to be running at 60 frames per second. So something similar to what Godzilla Neighbor Crisis 2 The first film in the series that I did for 60 frames per second. I'm gonna do this for this film as well. It's still gonna be widescreen, and I want to try to give some differentiation in some ways. And I'm gonna be representing it visually, but overall, it's gonna be the usual format for this film. And then more updates will be coming once more animation gets done. If not, all of that gets done. So that's pretty much it for this update. I know there's a lot more going on in the film, but that's all I'm going to be showing right now. In fact, I think you've already seen Shantae's casual form. I think I can show off some of the character models for the time being. So I'm going to go ahead and show maybe at least about 3, I think. Now, most of them are already done before this film happened, but one of them was done during this film's production. So I'll actually go ahead and start off with Gulp and Crush. I think I'll just primarily just focus on those 2 guys first. I'll go ahead and set this to material preview. So here they are. You're already seeing Gulp from Nibiru Crisis 2 when he was helping Shantae fight off against Buzz and Velvet in the Democratos facility. There he is with his signature design with these cannons that you see from Spyro to Ripto's Rage and Season of Flame, and even in Reignited Trilogy. He's got this kind of weird, dopey looking face as opposed to his angry face from the Reignited Trilogy. I always preferred the dopey, stupid looking faces from these guys over the angry ones, which there were still great designs and all that, but Crush and Gulp were always more kind of these dumb big brutes that were ordered by Ripto to start causing shit across Avalar. And I always liked that about these guys. There were just these dim-witted minions when Ripto is the small midget Riptok who is really smart and uses their brute strength to do his bidding. I always liked that. And I wanted to capture that idiocy based on how their faces look, and I pretty much got that. So, I mean, nothing wrong with Reignited Trilogy. I like that it just came off as more angry and more furious as opposed to just looking stupid. So, I just kind of prefer that. But anyway, we'll go ahead. I'm going to test these out for a little bit. So, I did a thing, and I might want to make sure if I got this connected here. Okay, that's good. Because I want to make sure that the hands inverse kinetics are connected to the crotch. Because whatever I do that, the hands will move along with them. Because in the past, I had to mark the animation sequences for the hands with the inverse alongside with the crotch. This time, as long as if I get these connected over here, I don't have to do that. Now, the reason why I would often do that is so that whenever anything moves, the bones will move along with them. But if they don't, then here's an example. Notice how his feet are kind of hanging out like that. And okay, even the tail is not even connected. So let me fix that. So to do that, you would need to, I think it was Control P, and then head to offset. So let me try that again just to show you. So if you notice something like this is off, the first thing you need to do is select that one bone that you want it connected to, let's say the crotch, for example. Then you select that, and then you Control P, keep offset, and then I'm going to go ahead and test it out. There you go. Okay. So now you notice that the inverse bones are not connected along with the thing. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and try that. Okay, so I could probably just do that instead. Or maybe I should keep them that way for now, but I probably will go ahead and attach these guys over here. Okay, so it's probably not a good idea to do that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just attach these guys to the crotch. I don't think I've had that issue with the other models before, but if I did, then I probably will need to fix some of them when I'm working on the animation. Come on, god damn it, come on. There we go. I think I'll probably need to do the same thing with Gulp while I'm animating. But go ahead and move the jaw for a bit. Right here. That looks pretty cool. Yep. And there he is with his mouth closed. Kind of looks like a smile. And so there they are. And there's also Gulp over here with his cannons. I'm going to show some of that off right here. Yeah, so you can definitely, or I can definitely move these guys around like these to make you show off like how he would do it with Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. And I can even use the Y key as I'm rotating to get those to move up like this. Okay. Alright, so that's it for Gulp. Now the second one I'll go ahead and switch over is Velvet's, or I don't know. I kind of debated if I wanted to or not. Or actually, I'll go ahead and just show off Flawn's disguise for a bit. So this is where the whole gloss glitter thing really came into origin. So what I have been doing, go ahead over here right into her pants, is I added a thing that I checked out recently is where you can add a, let's see, over here to color ramp, as well as using texture, coordinate, and Veroni texture. And however much I scaled it is where all the glitter is going to be glossing around like that. Going all the way from her ankles to her hips, and then even up to her upper body that I added to her disguise form, as well as her ribbon. So there's that. Not really a whole lot that needs to be said about this other than the fact that I added this glittery effect to that, which is probably going to be difficult to animate. But as long as I'm doing it solid, I should be fine doing that. But it is going to be difficult to work with. Okay, so it is at 24 frames. Okay, so I would need to make sure that that I try to work with what I got. I can actually go ahead and move on to, let's see, I want to say, okay, I probably will go ahead and show off Velvet's disguise form. You've already seen this from Fall of Norkarki, but there she is with alongside Primaspark. And you're going to be seeing her again in this form. Not only in Neighborhood Crisis Lithium, but also in Dark Redemption. If you have already seen one of the epilogues for Fall of Norkarki, this is what she'll end up being going forward. So going down here, there's her toeless shoes along with these anklets that go along with it, and then her pants. One of the biggest things in the Trojan domain is they have these up to her skirt. That we've got this upper part of the body where parts of the midriff are shown off, but the front and back are covered. Then I also have these sleeves. This one gets tied up mainly because she had already lost her left arm from the past during her childhood, and then just kind of going forward with that. There's her one and only gauntlet alongside with her customized energy sword that she would end up looking for and then use it as her primary weapon alongside her plasma pistol. And there's her cape. And then she would get her braided hair ponytail. Okay, and there's also her earring that she would end up wearing. And there is Primaspark. You've probably already seen him before, so not really much needs to be explained. And all that. And this is also more rounded. That's on her cape, as opposed to the hexagon emblem. But there's that. And I think there's only one more character model that I can show off before I call this off. And that would have to be, if I can find it, I know I have it somewhere, and that is Spyro's disguise form. And I think I've already shown this off quite a bit, but I'll show that real quick if I can find it. There you are. All right, there he is. So part of the storyline for Godzilla minus three is that while the heroes are on the Trijunction domain, they would end up getting caught, and there was a warrant that's being placed on to Spyro and his friends. So of course they have to put themselves in a disguise form to put a stop to Shantae and Repto. And for Flan and Conquer, they would end up putting themselves into different outfits, but Spyro would take a magic ring inside one of the shops, and then he would morph himself into this, where his wings are pretty much hidden. His tail has been morphed into a fluffy one. He pretty much looks like a dog. And so Spyro would need to keep his disguise as long as he can up until a certain point when he can't anymore. And of course, he would still keep his gills. That's pretty much part of Spyro's way of being able to breathe through water. That's pretty much been part of his design since from the beginning when I designed him. But yeah, and once again, if there was a childhood movie that reminds you of something, then that's been restored for you. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and show that off real quick. Nope, that's not what I want. And also, if you're noticing these big teeth that are showing up right here, that's because I added up the meshes to where he has this smile like this. Sort of like that. So you see how in some renders of Spyro the Dragon where he has both teeth locked in like this, I created those for that reason. So I'm going to go ahead and hide those, and this is without those big teeth. Also, there's his gills that I have mentioned. That's part of Spyro's integral design. And real quickly before I wrap this up, the reason why I added those gills in the first place is because I've always thought that if dragons were supposed to be amphibians that can breathe underwater, that's been the case with Spyro 2 and onwards, all the way up until I think in A New Beginning, where Spyro would breathe in underwater for pretty much forever. So that's been part of the inspiration for that design, but that's pretty much it. I know there's a lot that I could really cover for this update, but I want to try to get this out there for you guys just so that you're on the know that it is in the animation phase and more will come. I'm aiming for this to be around 60 to 70 minutes ish, depending on how things go. It might be shorter, but I want to try to get as much of it rendered and try to go more into this as much as I can on it. Not quite as much as Nibiru Crisis 2, but it's going to be a pretty ambitious one to work on. So, let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think this looks really neat? Anything that you want to see more about this? Maybe there's some things, I'm going to be hopping off now. Thanks for watching. Over and out.